Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are thankful that you are able to transition from our breakout webinars, and we hope that it has been a wonderful presentation for you in the areas of videography and podcasting. We are coming down now to our last presentation in our general room here today. And the topic for today is let's get real about streaming and audio. And there is no other person on the planet that that I felt that is able to do this presentation than Northeastern's own and the joy of media and technology for the Adventist Church. In my opinion, he is the assistant communication director for our Northeastern Conference and the director and creator of Praise Vision, of the innovative platform for all media and worship and technology. He is a media director for the Allen AME Cathedral in New York, in Queens, New York, and he works for IBM. That isn't a single thing the guy doesn't do. I don't know if he works for IBM anymore. But anyway, there's a single thing he doesn't need be able to do. I'm thankful to him, and I'm thankful for him. I'm thankful for all the things he's able to give to our conference. And if you do not know of Gary Saunders, you must be under a rock. But he has done so much for this conference over the last 20 plus years, aiding and helping and serving in this conference in the area of communications. And he is going to give us now this opportunity for us to hear from him in the area of streaming and audio. I'm going to welcome to you guys none other than my good friend, Gary Saunders.
Hi, everybody. Dudley, you're way too kind. You're way too
Yeah,
kind.
we,
You're way
we
too
asked too
kind.
much.
You said too way too much. How you doing, guys? And welcome to my lab. Welcome to my lab. My name is Gary Saunders. Recently, actually, I don't need the backup stream. Of course, as a presenter, you want to make sure that if your main one goes down, that you do have a backup to continue on your broadcast. This one is going to be a little bit different, I believe. I want to do things a little bit more interactive, and I'm going to show you around my lab. And we're going to talk about getting real with audio visual streaming. I'm assuming that you guys already have the basics. And then after that, I may transition into what it is I do, and as a media director for a lot of different churches and a consultant for others. I do still work for IBM. I'm a streaming producer for IBM, and that's fun. Um, and we're going to welcome your comments, and if you want to kind of join me on the stage, we can do that because I love to do. Q&As and stuff like that. I really appreciate those kind of things. So the first thing, what I want to actually start off with is um, understanding your network footprint. Let's start there. Um, the pandemic has come. Um, in the pandemic, we learned how to do the streaming, which is our now prerequisite, I believe, for any ministry because that is now your front door. That is where everybody actually sees you before they want to come into your building. They want to see what you're doing there. We've passed that stage, and some people during that stage were doing mm, a little bit of a post producing, meaning that they would record their content and then mix it and then put it out live or run it as a premiere in YouTube, sorry, in YouTube, or for those who had various different platforms that automatically played their content, Restream, or to name another one, they would do it there as well. Um, so what we want to actually focus in on now is now actually making it better. We understand OBS. For those who are using OBS, nothing against that. um, and it works. It works. Um, there are other tools similar to OBS, like Live Stream. That's a software. Live Stream Studio, excuse me. I think Vimeo is now the parent company of that. And then you also have vMix, right? vMix. So these are like software streaming solutions. Those actually who use this platform, StreamYard. This is another platform that you can use to get your content out there. But we want to actually take it a step further and making it sound and look ridiculous, right? We want to go ahead and show a multi-million-dollar budget on a multi-million dollar production on a shoestring budget. That's never going to actually work in our churches. Well, some of our churches. I know we do have some churches that are very keen on technology. But what do we do to make it better? So the first thing that we need to actually concentrate on is actually your network infrastructure. um, I find that most of our churches look at our networking as an afterthought. It's not the primary thing that anybody really thinks about, but it's the cornerstone of how you're actually going to get your content out. In my situation here in my lab, um, I have two internet connections that actually come into my lab on a router that actually allows me to load balance the amount of network that I'm going to be using, or to segment the network off of what you call VLANs, virtual LANs, to allow for certain packets to go certain places, or let's get a little bit closer, to allow certain cars to go down certain highways, right? So if you have a car that's destined for Miami, we don't want to actually send it to Chicago, right? We want it to go where it needs to go. So this allows me to actually segment my network and actually have the ability to fail over, meaning that if the network goes down, we still have another way of transmitting or communicating our content. Excuse me, I have a little bit of cold. I'm trying to get up, not a cold, but allergies. But anyway, so getting back to the point now, in reference to making sure your network infrastructure is good, you got to figure out what the plan is overall for your church and for your ministries. And I'm going to go into a PowerPoint, not just yet, but that will kind of give you an idea of where I'm going with this. Um, but you have to kind of figure out what your ministry is looking to do, right? So inside your ministry, you have various different departments that use that said internet. Well, your audio visual is one. They need to actually use that. The other one would be your treasury, right? The other one would be your administrative staff, and all those different entities within your church. They have their own separate rooms, and your networks go to those individual places. One thing that I said is very important is making sure that you can segment all of those things, meaning that, of course, these have individual highways for these individual cars, and they need to not actually see each other unless you tell them to. So that's like the basis of the infrastructure that you kind of need to understand, and how to plan your network to be able to do your high level streaming. Because basically what we want to do is to actually use QoS, or quality of service, to make sure that you have enough bandwidth to get your content out above everything else, right? Because you don't want anything happens with your stream when it's going out. Because even during the pandemic, that's how we were collecting our funds, right? So a lot of the churches were putting their content out, asking for people to remit their tithe and offerings. And if they did not get the stream out, the tithe and offering did not come in. So we got to make sure that our virtual churches uh, still able to get the money in. But basically, when it gets down to it, again, if you have any questions, comments, um, You can actually post it here. And anything I've just said, you can stop me and ask anything at any point. Um, this feels kind of weird, actually, sitting back talking to no one, so to speak. But anyway, uh, so what I want to do now is I want to kind of talk about we talk about the network portion of it. Now that we have the network infrastructure set up, we want to talk about bandwidth. The bandwidth that is probably uh, I think at this particular the minimum that you should have is at least 100 megabits up and down. At least 100 megabits up and down. Um, um, and the reason why I say that is that we want to be able to push and depending on how your infrastructure is, if you want to send a primary and a backup stream. But if you think about it this way, um, each stream that you're sending is, if you're using, I guess you're not, yeah, it depends on if you're using like YouTube. I think YouTube has the ability to do a primary and a backup. But each one of those is going to take up a percentage of your network, right? And then if you have other things sitting on your network, you don't want to actually, make that kind of die. You don't want your network to die, so to speak. So, you could probably get away with 50, but I would like. I mean, if you could get a gigabit, in some places they have gigabit networks. That is very, very important. Make sure that you have enough bandwidth. So I always state that it's better to have it and not use it than not have it and want it. We don't want to do that. All right. So that's really important. Um, so we have the infrastructure. Now we have our bandwidth. Now we need our streaming machine or streaming portal. Um, so that being said, I'm going to go into my my toolbox, guys. I'm gonna actually show you my toolkit. All right. So I'm gonna pull out my bag here. Um, and let's see what we have in the bag. What we have in the bag. All right. So, uh, depending on what you actually, how you want to set up your infrastructure, I don't, initially I would say, let's go with a software solution. But there are times where I've actually had software failures, so to speak, and then it takes down like a some sort of some streaming boxes, like a a new tech TriCaster or even a vmix machine. But for those who build solid ones, they're good, right? So these are some, I believe, of the industry standard units that people use. And I'm just going to turn around here so I can actually show you a little bit better. Hold on, let me just move this over here. Okay, so show you a little bit better. This is the ATEM Mini ATEM Mini ISO Extreme. This is a really, really good unit. Um, I know many of you probably have this. It has 8 inputs. Um, and it has 2 outputs plus a USB, which is really, really good for attaching hard drive sources to your for recording. So you could put your hard drive right inside here, and it actually record your content directly to the hard drive. The interface is really relatively easy to use, and with the ATEM control, I believe that you should be able to live stream directly from this unit as well. This is the HDMI version, which has 8 inputs and 2 outputs. Most people use it as a program out and maybe a multi-view. And then you have this. Well, this is also one of the units that I tend to like using a lot. I use it primarily, actually, when I do a lot of live streaming recordings, actually, which is really cool. So I have 8 inputs, just like this one, but this was a little bit different. This is SDI, right? So with this SDI version, you have 8 SDI inputs, and then you have 4 SDI outputs, which is really cool. So you can do things like program out multi-view and still have two remaining to do various different things. Like if you want to send something to a confidence monitor, you can do that. Or if you want to send something into Zoom, a lot of people still want to use a lot of people still use the hybrid type technologies to still push their content to Zoom. And I know quite a few churches that I work with now, they still do that, primarily for uh, the hear the no, I don't want to say hearing, like hearing for the hearing impaired, for those who do sign language. They actually create a little room specifically for them that they can go inside there. They have somebody that's sign languaging, doing the do the signing for the video content that's coming in. So that's a really cool use of technology. But then you can send various different inputs, well outputs down that line. So this would be one of the outputs that they're um, very, very, very good tool. And then behind me, this is vmix, right? So this is a software production switcher. Very, very powerful. Of course, you could do lower thirds inside here, but you need a third party piece of equipment to do that, software to do that. This actual unit is really, really cool because you could do a lot of the things inside of it, which is really, really cool. So you do lower thirds, you could bring in remote people that does now have the ability to tie into Zoom and bring Zoom directly into your presentation. It has its own um, uh, connectivity protocol for bringing its own people in, like vmix call, that's what they call it. You can bring people in with that. Has the ability to do SRT, which is going to be very, very important for a lot of people in the future, for those who are building out their infrastructure to do more than just streaming, but to ingest other people's content. That's, yeah, that part. Okay. Um, so here are the various different tools that you can use to actually be able to switch your cameras. Each one of these would go into a camera, just like this box here. This one has about 8 inputs. Yeah, I could take 8 inputs inside this one, and then it's which is similar to this. But the only difference between this one and this, the vmix, would be what you call the latency, where there's no latency with this one. With the vmix, depending on what you're sending your signal to, there will be a little bit of latency. So you have to be very, 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 very uh, careful about that. Okay, so that's the video portion of what we're looking at. So we're moving now from the infrastructure to we moved from the infrastructure, we moved to the bandwidth, we moved to the streaming platform. Now we want to actually talk about getting excuse me, getting the audio into your streaming box. Of course, you have various different cameras. It's either going to be HDMI, SDI, or NDI nowadays. That's going to get your content into your production suite. Um, but we want to actually think about actually doing some audio. So down here, um, excuse me for a second. So down here, I have my yeah, like everybody has these laying around their house, right? So I have a X32 rack that actually provides my audio directly into my streaming box, that so I could be able to mix various different things. So I see a comment in here. Is this session about audio or video? It's actually about both. All right, it's about both. So we're going over a lot of different things here. All right, so um, this streaming unit, this ATEM, not ATEM, excuse me, the X32 streaming unit, I think you have other ones, similar like the M32 core is another unit that you can use. Now, the reason why I would say, hey, look at that, because it depends on, again, how your network infrastructure or your audio infrastructure is, your network infrastructure, how it's going to be tied in, because some of it on that infrastructure, like what I spoke about earlier, would be your audio, right? So imagine this: you have your your mixer having two inputs, but you could also send whatever inputs wherever else you want to send it, inside of your infrastructure. Meaning that, let's say you have a room that is upstairs inside of your building, and you got your content that's coming in from here. We could just send that audio straight upstairs. So using Dante, I know it's that's a whole other thing that we can talk about at a different time. But that's one way. That's one device. The other device that I was looking for here. Hold on, let me see. I know I have it around here. Oh yeah, so here it is. So I'm using it. I thought had another one, but like, oh yeah, it's in my other bag. Hold on one second. Is this right? You have your audio interface. So basically, um, your audio interface could go exactly into your streaming protocol. Sorry, your streaming encoder, and then you have your USB feed. It goes directly into this. Your inputs go into here, both line or mic level. That's something that's very, very important. A lot of people tend to use the mic level for sending their audio signal into their mix, and it becomes overdriven and it becomes distorted. All right. So you have to be mindful to use the line level wherever applicable. Okay. Be very, very, very careful of that. Yeah, this is really about maybe 80, $90 for one of these units, and it'll make you a world of difference. Um, for those who are still using, the hard line or hardwired connections, or analog, I should say. Okay. Um, so that's the audio, getting the audio into the production switcher. With this switcher here too, it does have like mic levels, but inside the software it has some line level options where you can put this is a eighth inch to an XLR to get your audio inside of the switcher, which is pretty cool as well. And it does have a really cool feature as well, is that it has a delay inside of it. So you could be able to delay your audio to make sure it stays in sync. That's very, very important, because what we don't want is out of sync audio on our live streams. How can Andrew Antonio M says, how can a church implement software mixing for live services using a digital board? Um, that's relatively, it's well, I'm not gonna say it's relatively easy, because you're asking the question. Some people may be having that challenging. You can use Logic. Um, to do your live mixing, but it really depends on how your console and how your infrastructure is set up. And I keep on going back to the infrastructure part. I also stated something earlier about Dante. Dante is an audio and visual digital signal routing software. It's before it was just audio, but they now incorporated AV that allows you to send various different signals over IP, right? So it's audio and visual over IP. If your console, if your console is using let me Antonio says X32 board. Am I to assume, Antonio, you have two X32 boards, or is it just one? I just need to actually get a little bit of clarification, and while I continue. So I thought that well, another way of implementing the audio for, okay, this one. So, all right, okay. So I'm assuming that it's one X32 board, and then along with that, you want to get the output of the X32 board into a DAW, like Logic or Pro Tools or Reaper, and then do your live mix from that. Am I coming down the lane correctly, Antonio? Just let me know. All right, while I continue. Um, if you're going to be using a digital console, there are two prevalent um, protocols for you to actually, okay, cool, I got you. There's two prevalent protocols that you would be able to use to get your content into a digital workstation, a digital audio workstation. That's really what a DAW is, like Logic or Pro Tools, would be for you to either use a Dante card or MADI, and actually even SoundGrid. I've had experience with all three of them. Some of them have been really good. Some of them have been nightmares. But you are able to use those three. Those are the three probably top ones. I think another the one that everybody's been starting to use now is AVB. AVB. So, but the one that I'm going to talk about now would be Dante. So, Antonio, what I would suggest for you to do with the Next 32 is to get you a computer or get a Mac Studio, right? Put your Logic on there, and then get your Dante virtual sound card, right? You get a Dante virtual sound card with a, of course, on your Mac with a Thunderbolt, or not a Thunderbolt, like a USB C, the Ethernet adapter. You want to make sure that you're getting the full 1 gig throughput, based, basically thinking that your network would be a 1 gig network on your infrastructure, what I spoke about previously. So once you do that, Antonio, um, that would allow you to, like with this oh, hold on, tools. So yeah, expansion X32 Dante card. You get that and you put it in the back of your console. Yeah. Can it be done via USB limited? No. If that's going to be the case, Antonio, I guess you could. Well, if you have an X32, you could actually do it over USB. Because I did that for a church, Stroudsburg Church, a gentleman that I was helping out there as well. So you can go USB out of your X32 into the computer, which will get your audio into the DAW, right? And then once you get the audio into the DAW, you're going to have to, on your X32, not well, it would be on your DAW at this particular point. The output of that would actually have to go back, not even back to the X32, but it has to go out to get into your encoder, right? So you would still need to come out of the DAW with with a device like this, which was going to capture your audio that will get into your encoder. So that would be probably the fastest way for you to do that with limited budget. But kind of getting back to what I was saying with with uh, with Dante, that allows you to really kind of step up your routing on what you want to put wherever inside the building. Meaning that if we wanted to do a virtual sound check, that means like when you are, church is over, you have your downtime, you've recorded your content to your DAW, you could actually go back and mix your content in real time over the loudspeakers inside your church to make sure you fine tune it to create um, the best experience that you need to do it. Okay. So that's one way you can do it. But like again, for me personally, I'm an advocate more so for Dante than the USB protocols because it allows me to send the signals more different places. Okay, for streaming, do you prefer a hardware encoder or software encoder? Well, I have both, and it really depends. I do have I don't know if you can see it here, but no, this is a Black Magic Web Presenter. It does a really good job. Teradek cubes do a really good job, and of course vmix. They all do relatively the same thing. I don't necessarily have a preference, though, Tristan. And how you doing, man? Good to see you. I don't necessarily have a preference in which one I would use. I mean, it just really depends on what the context. Like the reason why I use this Black Magic 4K that web presenter is twofold. Number one, I have an encoder box like for closed captioning, right? So that's how I get the closed captions to my stream. You know what I mean? So that's really how I. That's why really why I do it the way I do it there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't use other applications to pass captioning. But I know that vmix doesn't do that. They don't allow you to pass captioning in vmix, but on this machine I have Windows, not Windows, excuse me. I have Live Stream Studio that does allow you to pass captioning. All right, so that's those are two things that you could kind of think about in doing that. And for Logic, do you have a suggestion for low latency plugins? Um, Man, that's a class in itself, Tristan. And I don't necessarily have enough time to really, and I've tried to make this kind of a high level as much as possible. And we probably need to do a more in depth, uh, s- you know, 3 or 4 hour long session on actually mixing and doing all those kind of things. Um, but yeah, Waves offers a bunch of different suites. Sorry, a bunch of different solutions in its suite for low latency plugins. But again, you know, um, I'm not going to go out and tell you that there's just one plugin that's going to magically do it for you. That's not how this works. It's going to take a lot of trial and testing to basically come up with your sound, because really 90% of what these plugins are actually doing is you could actually do with the internal plugins that come with the software, right? So understanding gating, understanding compression, and various different things like that really would help you to kind of to expand your mix, right? So that's very important, and going forward. EQ and and actual how to even structure your plugins when you do get them, like which one comes before one, your signal chain, you know what I mean, so you're not actually overly killing your sound before it even gets to the listener, you know. That's very, but what we could always, Tristan, you could always give me a call, and we could kind of talk about that. It says, what kind of training would you recommend churches have their tech teams to go get where they can get it? Wow. You know what? I did have a presentation kind of based on that. But I don't think I'm going to have enough time to really to go completely through it. But I am going to say this. Um, I'm going to just give my example, and then I'm gonna give you another example. I started in the church. I started doing a lot of this stuff, tinkering and stuff inside the church, right? But for most, um, it can become difficult, right? Because sometimes church members don't let you kind of do what you think that you want to do, and they don't want you to break their stuff, because that's what was told to me when I was younger. That I can't do this kind of stuff. You're going to break it, and it's not going to sound any good. 30 something years later, I have multiple companies, stellar awards for this kind of stuff. So it's like it's whatever. A stellar award nominations actually for this kind of stuff. But it's like whatever. But I am going to say go to your church first and just start to try to practice there, or if you have a homes kind of solution, start going there. The next step once you understand the basics, is to go to a church that's doing it on that level. Go to a church that's doing it on that level. Um, and just kind of sit and watch. A lot of them, what I'm saying is not new stuff. It's stuff that everybody does. You know what I mean? But I've taken the time personally to really sit down and have the hunger for it, to actually look and to see why things will work the way they do, how if I do one thing, how it affects something else. So that's what I really would say. You could do a lot by trial and error. And then you have YouTube, right? There's a websites like Churchfront is another is a tool that you can use. Churchfront.com. They do have little tutorials on how to do a lot of these different things as it pertains to your you know your 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 tech team as a whole, right? And the other thing is this, we're kind of transitioning from just being directors to media directors, right? So, Antonio M, what are some tips? What are some tips we can use to mix audio better for both in-house? Okay, all right, let's get to it then. All right, so um, what are some tips? What are some tricks? Tips and tricks. Okay. What you hear online and what you hear in the house are two different things, right? But I would say that what you hear in your headphones for the online would probably be a better mix than what is actually happening inside the house, if that makes sense. So you get your headphones and you listen to that mix and you create that mix online, depending on how you're setting up uh, your audio, your channels, or your how your audio is being sent to your encoder. Some people like to use buses. Some people like to use matrices. I like to use matrices because I want the online mix and the in-house mix to be as similar as possible, so I know what's going to both, right? So what tends to happen is that a lot of people sit back and they be like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to create this individual mix," and they listen to it. But when you're mixing inside the house, and it sounds this kind of way, you kind of get lost between the two mixes. It's like doing double work, right? And that's something that you have to just kind of be able to manage. So one of the things that I tend to like to do is I have audience mics, right? Because I want it to sound as authentic as possible, like the people are sitting inside the room mixing. So definitely, I would try to put up some some audience mics inside the room to capture a little bit of what the ambiance of the room is, to go along with the directness of the individual mix, if that makes any sense. Okay. All right. Do you have a recommendation of YouTube channels or budget friendly training platforms to learn basics? Again, as I stated, Churchfront is one that, I would definitely advocate for you to take a look at. There's a couple of guys on YouTube. A name slipped me at the moment, but they do X32 trainings, for those who want to look at X32, for those who are looking to do Pro Presenter. They have their tutorials. A lot of this stuff it can be found online, guys. Really, so and everybody kind of says the same things, really. So, really now it's just for you to actually get it, apply it, and see if it works for you. Because what works for you may not necessarily work for me. You know what I mean? You keep the questions coming. This is fun. Okay. All right. So where was I? Yeah, we were talking also. Yeah, I was talking about. So we had the audio coming in, and we was talking about mixing, waves, plugins, and all those kind of things. So when dealing with,
You just finished talking about Dante.
yeah, I need to finish down. Yeah, finish talking about Dante. Oh yeah, well, Dante. All right. So now the cool thing about um, yeah, they're very good. Yeah, trust. Yeah. So the cool thing about Dante is like my entire infrastructure is kind of built off of that, you know. So I can literally send audio from um my one of my my laptops into a live mix here. Now the good thing with the um the vmix protocol is that you could actually take in, I believe, up to 16 channels of audio and mix it inside there too. So in my case, what I do for work, I bring in um content internationally. So that comes in, I can mix it, master it before putting it out on the stream that goes outside. So if I have content that's coming in from Italy, Germany, Spain, or France, I get all that in. I could get all the levels set. So the viewing audience who is receiving the content gets a level broadcast all the way through. So Dante could allow you to do that, because you get your audio in into the box, and then you can send it into your mixer. Then you can send it back out of your mixer back into the box. It's really cool. But you know, that's the reason. That's the way I kind of use it. And even up at Camp Victory Lake, we have our production truck, and that Dudley drives around, and inside there we have a mixer that's inside there, and then we have at the front of house, we have another mixer. So how do we get the content from there to there? It's really over one small Ethernet cable that's run to the console, and then we get 64 inputs inside the truck. So we could do a really good thing. So if you say, "Hey, listen, that mix sounds good," well, because we got everything mic'd, you know, so so that's really what it is. Well, I mean, that's really all I got for you guys today. I do have some materials on the 5 steps of becoming a church media director, because that's really what we're actually transitioning to. We're no longer communication directors and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to kind of briefly go through this really quick, since Dudley put it up. All right, so let's kind of look at this. First things you got to do is decide if you are called to this role, right? Not everybody who wants to transition or uh, to be a media director can be, because maybe I'm not, and there's no disrespect, it's just that it's something that's you got to be anointed for, because it takes a different kind of patience, a different kind of hunger to kind of do it. But definitely training is a part of it. So definitely you have to pray for guidance, consider your spiritual gifts, and talk to mentors. Deli's a great mentor. I'm a good mentor for those who I've gone through doing various different things with. I mean, I have one guy that's at the Apollo. I have a couple of people who are in Disney. I have one who is yeah, a couple two in Disney and one at the NBA, and they all kind of came through my pipeline. So yeah, I mean, get yourself get yourself a good mentor. Okay, and acquire the necessary technical skills. As I stated before, learn how to operate the cameras, microphones, projectors, lighting, equipment, and soundboards. That's the basics of what you do regularly on your week-to-week worship services. Practice setting up and troubleshooting your systems, and then become proficient in editing software like Final Cut for those who are doing video. But for those who are doing audio, there would be like Logic, or for those who are using Mac, for those who are using PC, would be either Adobe Creative Suite like Premiere and or Pro Tools. Um, Gain relevant experience. Volunteer with church's media team. As I stated before, if you get to a particular level and you don't think that you can grow anymore in that particular box, go and volunteer with churches that are taking it to the next level, just to kind of get your ideas. That's very, very important. And then or even try to work with outside agencies to kind of expand your skill set. Try to do complete media internships. That's very, very, very important. I did that when I was coming up in this particular skill set. So I did do some internships. Okay. Um, Of course, develop your spiritual maturity. Needless to say, you study your Bible daily, pray consistently, attend church regularly, give generously, share your faith, and to serve all others. Serving others is very, very, very important, guys. I can't even, uh, you know, think of anything better than to do is to make sure that your people are always good. So for me, I'm a consultant. I do this around the world, right? And I have various different amount of churches that I do consultations with, and it's my gift, kind of to kind of help them to get where they need to go and to grow their infrastructure the way they need to do it. So that's very, very important as well. Network and interview, join church media groups. Facebook has a lot of really cool groups that you can actually go in and learn a lot of stuff in. There's technical stuff for pro presenter, digital boards, Allen and Heath boards. You can go inside there and go through those various different groups, join them and see what everybody else is doing. Attend in person conferences and workshops, NAB, those kind of things. Set up informational interviews with various different companies, and ask for referrals from the network of your people, like you're doing now. See, Janelle is networking with Tristan. That's always a good thing. you know Like-minded people kind of get together and become really great. The outcome will be great, I should say. Shadow other directors. If you see something that other people are doing, go sit, ask. I love to talk about stuff like that. So sit, ask, involved in trying to figure out, hey, how did you do this? How did you do this? Like, why is it the video wall over here is working so good and over here it's the same one, it's not working the same way? Let's talk about it. That's very, very important. All right. Here's, start as a volunteer. Again, serving others. You can kind of go through that on your own time. I could make this available for you as well. And the more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you will go. That's Dr. Seuss. So, and the last thing is rely on God's guidance and pray for wisdom and discernment. Seek counsel for spiritual mentors from spiritual mentors, and to be patient for God's timing. I know you guys want to kind of hurry up and do it now. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, video walls are now. I just put in two at the mega church that I work at. Um, and it's very, very fun. You can do some really, really good things. And then when you start to actually blend that with Unreal Engine, oh, that's a whole different thing. Now, when you talk about content, making content, I don't know if anybody spoke about Unreal and how you can interact that with your live worship service. This is a whole different thing. That's the next thing I'm kind of working on. So yeah, so it's always kind of good to set goals and to work along with people that want to go the same directions with you, and just kind of join that community. So listen, I'm gonna have there's 4 minutes left. If you have any other further questions, you can go ahead and ask me. If you want to kind of jump into the chat, not into the chat but into the live, I don't know if Dudley could do that, but you could ask your questions that way as well. And That's all I got for you today.
Yeah, well, I mean, the undertaking, the ability for you to have this conversation and teach everything in an hour, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
But
it's impossible.
we hope that this becomes an avenue for people to begin to start to look at other YouTube clips, groups, and networking for you to build your to build your
Yeah,
knowledge from
absolutely.
this.
Yeah,
I think it's important for us to maybe try to do some different in personal, you know,
yeah,
targeted webinars or even events where we can have hands-on training, whatever the case may be. I think that might be good for us.
The other thing would be it'll be really great for us to have a technology lab.
Yeah,
Yeah, a technology lab would be really, really good to bring like-minded people together and just see how things work, and how we can put things together and work together as a complete unit. Like, let's say that you want to send signals back from Victory Lake back to the control center in Merrick. We got
right.
to not Merrick at all, on Merrick Boulevard. Those are
Mhm.
things that we have to kind of figure out. You know what I mean? What if you outside in the park and we need to send signal back, or you want to mix it? Like, what do we do? And these are the things that I've been working on now, actually, because I have to do it. We have a event that's going to be coming up, Dudley, in June, where we're going to be outside in the park, and we're going to be using WiMAX Wi-Fi, and we're going to be sending our video signals back to our production studio and mixing it in Queens, and then sending it up
Right.
to everybody else, and then we're sending video back to the park, like, for playback.
Crazy.
so it's these are things that this is the next level of stuff. Like, how can we pull it in all your churches all at one time? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So so these are things like we could, it's Lighthouse Media, right? We could do a
Lighthouse
whole
Media.
TV station.
We're really excited to announce to all of our communication directors, all our church leaders, pastors, etc., is that our media truck now is available for our conference, and so for any event that you're doing, any opportunity for you to want to stream a major event and so on, you can just contact us, and we can begin to start to see how best we can allow the media truck to be utilized, not just for events, but also for training and bringing some of your young people on your media team and seeing how the studio works, and begin to
Mhm.
start to pick brains of people like Gary and young Tristan and myself and Travis and all the team that we have, of
Mhm.
what can be done for your church. I think that
Right.
might be good going forward. Gary, thank you so much, bro. You sound like you have a cold, man. You need to.
Yo, you Dudley, if it wasn't for you,
I know, bro. Thank
if
you,
it
man.
wasn't for
Because
you,
you sound, yeah. You need to like, yeah.
no, and now I got to go do one more thing before the day is
It,
done.
the boys' day is done.
It don't stop. It
It
don't
don't
stop.
stop. It never
It don't stop.
does.
Never
Well, I
does.
appreciate you very
All
much.
right,
Listen,
you got it, man.
if anybody needs to contact Gary, just email him gsaunders@northeastern.org. Hopefully he checks that email.
Yeah, I
And
do. I do get it. I
I
do
know
get
you
it. I do get it.
so if you have any follow-up questions, anything that you want to ask him, he is a wealth of knowledge. He is literally the industry's best. So we're thankful so much for the time that you've given us.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, folks, thank you so much. We are gonna wrap up today and today's workshop. And we're thankful so much that you were with us since 11 o'clock today. Um, just a couple of announcements and some things to give you before we close. First thing is I'd love to let you guys know about all the things that we are doing on YouTube. There are a lot of free content for you to use. We are working extremely hard to make things very easy for you. So please utilize the content that we have available to you and for the benefit of your churches and for your particular ministries. As we mentioned before, the Lighthouse Media Studio truck, our media truck is now available to our churches. For you have a particular event, maybe your church is a little smaller, but you want something a lot bigger. You want the streaming program to be a lot bigger, and the presentation to be a little bit more quality. Please let us know. We are available to help. It does come on a first come first serve type of basis. Obviously there are funds to get the media truck up and down, but it's very cost effective because it's within our conference. So please let me know, send me an email, contact me if you are interested in that, if you have something coming up in the future, so that we can accommodate you moving forward. In the next coming months, we'll have another information. We'll have another flyer out for you. Our main man Tristan, who's in the comments today, he's going to be doing a presentation next month on branding and graphics. I know there are a lot of people who are very, very big on trying to upgrade their church branding and make sure that their graphics and all their things are really tight. We'll have a specific webinar class simply on graphics and branding coming up next month. So look out on our Facebook page and our Instagram, and hopefully you're following us on all our social media platforms for information on what's going on in regard to that particular event in the near future, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Communication department is continuing to team up with the Atlanta Union. Remember the message that we said before about being a digital disciple. If you're interested in becoming a digital disciple, please let myself know. Please let Shanoa Villefrank know from the union and be a part of that growing movement. Again, thank you very much for your participation in this regard. And if there's something that you would want to continue to see, if there's something that you would want to have, presented, please let me know so that we can try our best to be a resource to you. I myself, I hold two hats. If you don't know me, I am the communication director and the associate youth ministries director. So a lot of times my week is filled up in communication stuff and my weekends are filled up with youth ministry stuff. So I try my best to visit the churches, but normally if I'm visiting the churches, normally it's in the capacity of youth ministries. I know there was a comment before about visiting the churches and sitting down to help. I'll try my best to do that, but I'm only one person, and now I'm down to a smaller staff. So we're trying our best to accommodate you. But emails, contacting and reaching out for any particular help is always needed. Please let me know where it scratches, where it itches, so I can scratch whatever the terminology is, and we'll help you in that regard. Finally, I want to thank everybody for their continued support of the new Northeastern kids. It has really become a large and growing um, content and resource. And so I want to thank everybody for their support and constantly resharing it to different people and different young people who might be blessed to use it and to see it. So thank you so much for making it extremely big. Again, follow us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Northeastern SDA, on Facebook. Obviously, you search Northeastern Conference. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Northeastern YouTube channel, and to Lighthouse Media Studios to get all of our custom-made content. Lighthouse Media Studios, we're streaming there right now for that custom information. I want to thank desperately our keynote speaker once again, Shanoa Villefrank. All of our presenters, thank you so much for being here. And for all of you who took the patience out to be here, thank you very much. We hope that you were blessed today. We will be sending out the presentations and different information that we have from this to all those who registered, hopefully within the next week or two. So make sure that you get that. If you need the link, just again, go search for us on Lighthouse Media Studios. We're streaming live there, and you'll be able to get the link of this. And this will also remain here on our page here in Northeastern Conference on our conference page. So if you just want to go back and just check northeastern.org/com workshop, you should be able to get all of our presentations and everything here. All right, we're going to close with prayer. I want to thank everybody again. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for your blessings. And thank you so much for all the wealth of knowledge and the resources that you've given us for the areas of communication. Now, as we depart, continue to give us your vision for our churches and for our independent ministries. Continue to allow us to be enthusiastic about learning and continuing to grow in our respective fields. Bless all of our presenters and bless all of our leaders who are here today as they strive to become content creators and better communicators for your name's honor and glory. Bless the rest of our week, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I'll leave you with this last little tutorial, everybody, on church lighting before we go.
In part 1 of this video, we talked about using 4 Pro Wash Max fixtures to light a 16-foot wide stage. A question we often get from pastors is, where do I hang these lights? Typically, 45 degrees from the person on stage is an ideal location for your wash lighting. For example, if your stage is 5 feet tall and your ceiling is 25 feet tall, you would want your wash fixtures to be 15 feet in front of your performer and 20 feet off the ground. In the case of this stage width, we recommend evenly spacing the lights at 3-foot intervals from the center of the stage. This setup will give everyone on stage even lighting coverage. You may not always be able to hang your lights at exactly 45 degrees in your church. Here's a look at what the differences are between 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Notice that the lower the number, there are shadows under the eyes and under the chin, it's a little harder to make out expressions, and there's not as much light towards the back of the stage. At 60 degrees, it's much easier to see expressions, and there certainly are no shadows. But there's also a glare, especially for someone who wears glasses, and the back wall has a tremendous amount of light on it. You can see this even further as you look at the degrees from the side of the stage. Notice how much light covers the stage when the lights are at 60 degrees. This can be a problem, especially if you have a projection screen at the back of your stage, and is something to consider. In this example here, we see why 45 degrees is such an ideal angle. Notice that the glare on Drew's glasses is lessened. There are basically no shadows, and yet the light completely dies out by the time it gets to the back screen. One thing we love about the Pro Wash Max is that it throws a completely even wash of light. Notice that the light display from left to right, front to back, is completely even with a soft, pleasing edge.
Take care, everybody. Be blessed. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you soon.